Very soon, we will be getting the very first mainline 3D Kirby game, which will be a huge step forward for the series. Since Kirby will be pushing forward into a new dimension, and will be celebrating his 30th birthday, I want to look back at some of the older titles in the Kirby series. Today, in this video, I will be looking at what is technically considered to be the first 3D Kirby game, Kirby Air Ride. This was the first time that Kirby was controllable in a 3D space, so it technically counts despite being a spin-off. I've been playing it a lot lately in anticipation of Forgotten Land, and it's a very enjoyable game, and now my favorite Kirby spin-off. So without further ado, let's take a look at Kirby Air Ride. Kirby Air Ride was released on Nintendo GameCube on July 11th, 2003, and is actually the only Kirby game on the GameCube. This game is very unique, because it's the only Kirby racing game, and the controls are a lot different from other racing games. Instead of holding down a button to move, you move automatically, and press A to boost, which is this game's equivalent of drifting. This is also the last Kirby game that Masahiro Sakurai directed, as after this game released, he left HAL Laboratories and started Sora Limited. The style of the menus in this game were even carried over the Super Smash Bros. Brawl, which makes sense considering the fact that this was Sakurai's last full-scale game before Brawl. Kirby Air Ride initially started development as a sequel to Kirby's Dream Course on the Nintendo 64, and a demo of it was shown at Shoshinkai 1995. In 1996, the development considerably changed, and it appeared more like a snowboarding-like racing game, much closer to the final game. A few years later, the development was shifted to the GameCube, where it eventually released in 2003. This long and interesting development cycle is likely why it turned out to be so unique with its gameplay and modes. Speaking of modes, there are three main modes in the game, including Air Ride, Top Ride, and City Trial, which I'll all mention in this video. So let's take a look at them. Air Ride is technically the main mode of the game, since the main objective is to race using different machines on various courses. You can also use copy abilities during the race, which can be used to damage other players, similar to Mario Kart items. Unlike copy abilities in the main game, you can only use them for a short amount of time. Various enemies drive along the courses, which can be inhaled, which is how you gain the different abilities. There are only 9 courses in total, but each one is very dynamic, and some include multiple paths, which can be used as an advantage during races. These courses include Fantasy Meadows, Celestial Valley, Sky Sands, Frozen Hillside, Magma Flows, Machine Passage, Beanstalk Park, and Nebula Belt. Understandably, each course is progressively more difficult throughout this mode since some are longer or contain more obstacles. Like other modes in the game, you can have up to 4 players, or you can set 3 CPUs when playing alone. Unlike many other multiplayer-oriented games, Kirby Air Ride is still very fun to play in single-player mode due to the difficulty of the CPUs and the mission checklist in-game. The checklist is very similar to the challenges in the Super Smash Bros. Series, and it gives you a large grid of missions to fill out. The more you complete missions, the more missions become available. Overall, Air Ride is very fun, but it surprisingly isn't the highlight of the game for me. That will come on later in the video. The next mode in the game is Top Ride, and yeah, it's alright. Basically, it's a very simple racing mode where you can race on these small courses with the camera giving an overhead view. This mode has a bunch of different items you can use, along with a few themed courses. It can be a fun, little, chaotic game, but it definitely isn't as interesting as the other modes, and it kind of feels out of place. I know it's normal for Kirby games to have side modes that can play completely differently from the main game, but unlike those modes, this one is just kind of there, and it isn't really memorable. It also doesn't really have a lot of replayability, since racing around a single small loop can only be fun for a certain amount of time. Overall, Top Ride definitely isn't bad, but it's a very forgettable mode compared to the rest of the game. Finally, we have the mode that Kirby Air Ride is most memorable for, City Trial. This mode is amazing, and one of the best experiences I've had in a multiplayer Nintendo game. Basically, you and 3 other players spawn in a large open city, and you ride around for 5 minutes to find various upgrades or new machines. After you upgraded your machine, you then have to do a random stadium event which can include races, melee fights, boss fights, or a destruction derby. While you are in the city, there are various ways you can find upgrades, as some can be in the open while others can be hidden in boxes or hidden inside things. You can also use items and copy abilities in the city to throw off opponents, like throwing a bomb or giant Gordos. And along with regular machines, you can also find legendary machines such as the Dragoon and the Hydra. To obtain these vehicles, you need to find all 3 of their corresponding parts. This was later referenced in Super Smash Bros., where you could collect the parts in a similar fashion. This mode is generally seen to be more memorable than the other modes because of the gameplay depth and replayability. Each match will feel completely different since everything is randomized, and your objective will be a little different to achieve each time. The aspects of this mode were eventually carried over into Smash Run and Smash 4 since you can upgrade using items in a very similar way. Overall, City Trial is very fun, and it's definitely more unique and enjoyable compared to the rest of the game, and it's why I enjoy Kirby Air Ride so much. Anyways, that is a look at Kirby Air Ride. It's a very underrated classic, and one of the best Kirby spin-offs, if not one of the best Kirby games in general. Kirby in the Forgotten Land is releasing very soon, so I thought it would be nice to look into the game that essentially served as one of its stepping stones that eventually helped Kirby transition into 3D. Have you played Kirby Air Ride? And if so, what is your favorite aspect of it? Let me know down in the comments. So anyways, thank you guys for watching this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Twitter if you want to. Goodbye.